Okay, good afternoon and assalamualaikum. Welcome everyone to Mimi's oh my god. Okay, let's start all over again. Good afternoon and assalamualaikum. Welcome everybody to Quick and Easy Cooking with Mimi. I'm Mimi, obviously. I've been using the Thermomix for the past 2 years. I've also been an advisor, Thermomix cooking advisor for the past 2 years as well, just a few months after I got my first Thermomix. And I'm also a team manager for the past 1 year. Alhamdulillah, I've also had the opportunity to work on several projects, like in the development of Chef Anis Nabila's cookbook, Comfort Food. Alhamdulillah, I managed to play a part in that project. And if you can see my Instagram, I've worked with some local celebrities as well, such as Siti Saleha, Dinas Mokhtar, Sazi Falak. Alhamdulillah, it's been quite an experience. Thanks to my career in Thermomix, I managed to meet with so many people, everyday people, not so everyday people, and it's such a blessing to meet and know you all. That is one of the things that I really enjoy about my job. So enough about me. Welcome, good afternoon. I'm sorry I cannot read I can't read what's stated in my phone. It's a bit far away, so I can't read each one of you one by one. So I'm just gonna jump in right now. Today I decided to do some baking, and I'm gonna do something a little bit advanced. I mean, it's simple but advanced in the sense that it uses an advanced ingredient. We are gonna do sourdough discard chocolate chip cookies. Okay, this is just to show you that the Thermomix can cater for both the new cooks, the novice, the beginners, and also to the more advanced cooks. So if you don't know anything about cooking, the Thermomix is perfect for you because you will learn a lot of cooking terms, ingredients, and concepts. Even though the method is a bit different from traditional ones, it will help you to learn how to cook. At the same time, if you are an advanced cook and you already say, I already know how to cook, I don't need no machine to tell me what to do, it will actually help you become a much, much better cook because it's going to give you so many ideas on what you can do in the kitchen and beyond, because the Thermomix can do so many things, from weighing to chopping to blending, emulsifying, mixing, kneading, and so many other things. Okay, so as I was saying, the star of today's recipe is something called a sourdough starter. Okay, sourdough, in a nutshell, is a traditional bread that uses natural yeast. So in the past, there was no such thing as instant yeast. And how do we make the starter? We use the starter in place of yeast. So it's a very, very simple method that involves taking equal amounts of water and strong flour. The more natural it is, the better. And then you mix that, and preferably filtered water, because we don't want chlorine to affect the starter. And then, you can just look it up on the web. It's people attend classes just to understand the concept of starter and also the concept of how to make sourdough bread. But the thing is, when you are new, or even if you're quite been in the journey of doing sourdough for quite some time, at some point you might end up with a jar of discards, because when we make the starter, we feed it the same quantity of flour and water every day, so like equal parts of starter, flour and water, and then we discard some of it before we feed it so that we maintain an optimal level. Because if we use too much starter, your starter will not rise and it won't be up at its optimum performance to make bread with. So a lot of people who are new to sourdough baking are always faced with this dilemma: what to do with your sourdough discards. And amazingly, it's just, with the lockdown all over the world and all, people started getting more and more interested in sourdough, because in many places in the world, it became actually difficult to get hold of yeast. So people went back to the original, which is sourdough bread. And then, Thermomix is very much in keeping with the times. suddenly I see a few months ago a collection of recipes using sourdough discard. Okay, so let's get started. Enough talk. I hope I cleared it up a bit. If you're new to baking and you don't have any sourdough discard yet, don't worry. There are other recipes for chocolate chip cookies, but this today is just something special for my friends who are doing sourdough or beginning to embark on that journey. All right? So the recipe is called, I saved it to my week. It's called Sourdough Discard Chocolate Chip Cookies. And all we do is to start cooking. Now the recipe, take note, is from the US. So all the measurements and including the temperature is stated in imperial units. So the only thing that you have to convert here is the oven, which is 325 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 175, 180. The rest of it, you don't have to worry, even though it's stated in ounces. When you want to weigh, the Thermomix is so clever, it will automatically switch to ounces as well. And then when you're done with the recipe, it will switch back to metric. Okay, so I've already preheated my oven. You can see the light there behind me. So I'm just going to tap on next. It says to line 3 baking sheets with parchment. I already have my baking tins with my silicone mats. See, this recipe can make a lot of cookies. That's why it says 3 baking trays. So take note. And then 8 ounces of unsalted butter diced. Again, a lot of people, when they're new to baking, they always ask, why unsalted? It's because we want to control the amount of salt that goes into our recipe. So I have it in here, and remember, anything that can go through the hole in this lid, it's good enough. So I've already cut my butter into cubes large enough or small enough to go through this hole. And I'm just gonna put them in. Now this is one recipe that you're gonna love because if you notice, it didn't say at room temperature. That means your butter can still be cold direct from the fridge and you can start making it immediately. That's one of the things that I really love about the Thermomix. No more wasting time waiting for the butter to go into room temperature. All right, and then the next recipe is 3.5 ounces of sugar. I already pre-weighed it, but if you want to see, it's actually not much. Okay, so it's in ounces now. I wish I can zoom it in, but my phone is actually a bit far away. So that's 3 ounces, 3.5 ounces of white sugar, and 6 ounces of brown sugar. So you have a bit more of brown sugar for this particular recipe. And then we put it in. And it says to insert the measuring cup into the mixing bowl lid, just like that. When you get a Thermomix, I'm going to teach you how to do that. And then to put it on top, you put it in, make sure that the gasket fits snugly, and then you turn to 6 o'clock, align with the handle. And it's set for us 30 seconds, speed 5. It's going to mix for us. So when you make cookies, I hope you can hear me through this noise. When you make cookies, there's actually a difference between white sugar and brown sugar because white sugar will make your cookies crispy and brown sugar will add moistness into your cookie. So each of these different types of sugar actually plays a different role in your cookies. It is quite on the sweet side, but it's really, really good and you should give it a go. Okay, so now it says to scrape down using the spatula. This is how it looks like right now. And we literally scrape it down. Just follow the instructions. There's not much to scrape down anyway. Now this one you can ketuk, so it looks like that. And we put it back. And when you put it down as well, be careful because you have to take care of your base unit. Make sure you don't hit the locking arms and make sure you don't hit the body. Okay. Same thing, when you use your car, you make sure you don't hit the side of the door against your fence, right? Okay. So now this is where the star ingredient comes in. It says 4 ounces of sourdough discard unfed. Unfed means you take it direct from the fridge and just put it. This is the only thing that you need to take out and put at room temperature. And then, yeah, it's unfed and at room temperature. Now, if you've been keeping your discard for quite a while and you might get a layer, I don't know if you can see it, you might get a layer here of like water separating from the rest of the discard. You might want to throw that out. It's fine. So I'm just going to pour it out. It's not much. And then I'm going to weigh it now. I need only 4 ounces. So that's 1 ounce, 2.3, 3, 3.6, 4 ounces. Perfect. So I still have a lot left. I can make this into other recipes in the same collection. The ones I recommend the most is the banana bread with, yeah, the sourdough discard banana bread. It's so good. It comes with chocolate chips and you don't taste any sourness at all. So I'm going to set this aside and wash my hands. All right. So the next ingredient is 1 large egg. And as usual, whenever we are working with egg, we take the egg and we always break it into a bowl first, just to be sure that it's a good one. Because sometimes we do get bad eggs, even from reputable suppliers. Okay, and then you put it in. That is the best practice when it comes to baking. And then a teaspoon of vanilla. This is entirely optional if you want. I'm just going to add a bit in. And then insert measuring cup into mixing bowl lid once again. You know the drill. And now it's going to mix for us for 20 seconds, speed 3.5. All right, so now we have the rest of our ingredients in here. I have my all-purpose flour, baking soda, pinch of salt, and of course, what is chocolate chip cookie without the chocolate chips? It's done. So now it wants us to add the flour, 13 ounces. You can tare the weighing scale just to double check. It's 13 ounces right there. Okay, pro tip. If you run out of all-purpose flour, very rare for most bakers, you can also use bread flour or a mixture thereof. Bread flour will make your cookies a bit more chewy, which I love. I mean, it's crunchy outside, but chewy inside, but very light. It's like everything everybody wants in a cookie. You have a little bit of everything. So I see it's a bit extra, 13.1. Yeah, I don't use no spoon. I just use my hands. Okay, next. 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. I have it right here. Not to be confused with baking powder. And then 1/2 teaspoon of salt. See, this is where the salt comes in. We don't want it to be too salty. And then, you know the drill, insert measuring cup into mixing bowl lid, and it's going to mix it one more time, 20 seconds, speed 4.5 this time. So I've got my baking tin and my silicone mat, and I'm also using for this one my ice cream scoop. I find it easier to portion my cookie dough using an ice cream scoop. So that sound means I'm done. You can actually go about and do other stuff, but man, I mean, what can you do in 20 seconds? It takes such a short while to make cookies. Okay, scrape down with a spatula. Maybe you want to take a peek at how it looks like right now. That's a lot of dough and a lot of cookies. And then finally, we add our chocolate chip cookies. I mean, our chocolate chips. So we just literally scrape it down. When you have your bowl on the base, you don't hit it because we don't want to compromise our weighing scale. So if you want to knock your spatula, you knock it against your hand. Okay, and then we have our 14 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips here, or whatever chocolate chips you have. I think you can even add nuts if you wish to, but my family is not partial to nuts, so it's a lot of chocolate chips, 14 ounces. Woohoo! Okay, 14.1. I mean, there's no such thing as too much chocolate chips, right? A little bit extra. And then, same thing, we put the lid back on again. And we're gonna mix it for a final 15 seconds. Reverse this time because we don't want to cut our chocolate chips, and speed 4. So if you're new to Thermomix, it will tell you exactly what speed, and then there's actually a mark so that you see up to what point you need to turn the selector button. And the only thing you need to set is the speed. Everything else is done for you. And that sound will tell you, I'm done, proceed to the next one. And it's done. We scrape it down. Oh, it needs to mix just one final time. Okay, sure. Just one more time. Because some of the chips are still on top and we want it to be really, really well mixed. So we just give it one final stir so that it's well incorporated right to the bottom, because we don't want our first batch to have tons of chips, but then the dough at the bottom not to have any, right? Kena adil lah kan? So this recipe I love so much because dia cukup banyak untuk anak-anak ramai kan. At the same time, makes use of my sourdough discards, and at the same time, it's so good. Crispy outside, soft, and it melts in your mouth inside. Okay, so final 10 seconds, speed 4, again reverse. No temperature because we are only mixing here. Rasa lama pula bila dah main saat-saat tu. Sekejap sorry. Tudung tu asyik ternaik. Nak tutup sikit. Apa yang perlu ditutup. Okay. And we are finally done. In fact, dia siap cakap, you use a tablespoon scoop of 12 balls of dough, but I find it's too big. So from experience, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna use my ice cream scoop, and then I find that one scoop is too big, so I would actually scoop out, but then I would divide into 2. So I will do one scoop, but I will divide into half, so like half a scoop each. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I'm gonna scoop out 6 scoops, but I'll divide them into 12. I mean, divide each one into half, so I'll get 12 in each tray. You need to, it doesn't spread that much, so that's one of the things I like about this recipe. Okay, I already have 6, sorry, dah terlebih sikit. No problem. So, nampak ke? Nampak sikit. Ke belakang sikit. So yang ni, I just divide into half. Tak perlu nak bentuk cantik-cantik, just it actually says to flatten it out a bit, but I find that it's not necessary. It will actually say to put the dough balls into the baking tin and to flatten it slightly. It's not necessary. Up to you. For me, I like them big and fat because they retain the moist interior and crunchy exterior. And if you don't have an ice cream scoop, no worries. You can always use a spoon or 2 spoons. It's even easier to handle it, so you don't have to physically touch the dough. I don't mind. Okay, so it's here, and then it's gonna bake for about 12 to 14 minutes. So this is how it looks like. I'm gonna put it in the oven now, and I put it in the middle rack with the fan on, atas api atas bawah, so the heating upper and lower heating element. And then at this point you can set your timer. So I'm setting my timer for 6 minutes, because after 6 minutes I'm gonna rotate my tray so that it will be evenly cooked, because most ovens are not even, so you might need to rotate your tray halfway. So I've set a timer there. Meanwhile, I can do the rest of my dough. At the same time, I want to show you something. Ni sampingan dyan eh. For those who are new and you feel like you're missing out, don't worry. I would recommend that you start off your bread baking journey using something that's already in cookie dough, something like milk bread. It's a very, very nice recipe, and children love it so much, especially the girls, because it is braided like Elsa punya rambut. So when I'm talking to small girls, I always tell them roti Elsa. So you just follow the recipe as per cookie dough, and I'm just gonna show you the part where you need to braid or to plate the dough. Okay, I will set this aside. Let's see if you can see it better. Can you see? Okay. I hope that's more visible. So, first tip, after you mix the dough in your Thermomix, if you can, I highly recommend getting a thermomat from Thermomix Malaysia online store, because it will make proofing of the dough so much faster. I did this just a few minutes before 6, and now it is doubled in size beautifully. And then the next tip is that after it has doubled in size, that's called the first proofing. The first proofing is you put the dough until it is doubled in size for the first time, because most bread will be proofed either once or twice. This one is to be proofed twice. So the first time is when it first puffs up like this. And then the second tip is that I know that it's going to be braided and divided into 3. So I do not form it into a ball, but I make it into an oblong instead, so that it's easier for me to divide into 3. So my spatula is still as cookie dough, so I'm going to use a dough cutter for this one. It's a plastic one. Just make sure when you use the thermomat, you use a plastic dough cutter. And then you just divide your dough into 3. It's going to make one ginormous loaf of bread. It's so beautiful, but it's fun. And it tastes so good. Okay? And then you divide it into 3. Agak-agak, no problem. And once you've done that, so you will have one side that's smooth and one side that's got the cut. And what I do is I would pinch the seams of the cut area, and then I'd smoothen it out. So it's easier to work this way. And then I roll it just a little bit. I use the edge of the thermomat to make it nice and smooth. So you hold the edge and then you put it under your palm. And then you smooth it out slightly, because we want to make it into a long rope. So I'm going to set the other 2 pieces of dough to the side. If you make it slightly longer, it's easier for you to braid, especially if you are new to this. So you get it something like this. Then I'm going to do the same with the other one. So the middle one will have both sides with the seams to pinch. So you just pinch it off like that to close it up on both sides. And then you roll it up so that you make it nice and smooth. And that way your bread will also look nice and smooth. So you pinch the ends first, like that. And then we do the same thing as the first one. We're going to use the edge of the thermomat to roll it. So even though the thermomat is made of silicone, it's actually very different from other silicone mats in the market. One is very thin and it's a lot more flexible. And 2, for some reason, it's just a lot better. Most sticky doughs will not stick to it. So a lot of dough that I can use with the thermomat, I attempt to use with normal silicone mat, it just doesn't work. So it's really worth getting one. At the same time, It can also withstand temperatures for up to 230 degrees Celsius, and so you can, and below 40. So you can use it both for, like when you want to laminate your dough, when you want to make, say, croissant, and you can also use it for baking because it's not gonna discolor even after repeated use. So you just do this to smoothen your dough. No need to pinch or no need to knead it again. You just make it slightly smoother so that it will look nice when you braid it, okay? And make it about the same length as the first one. And then you take the final one with only one side, one to pinch the seam. We do the same thing. We pinch it, and then we roll it up. Very easy. Alternatively, if you don't need to be too big, you can make 2 loaves, but you do the plating twice. But it's quite fun seeing your huge, enormous loaf ready. So to those who just joined in, good afternoon. We are waiting for our cookies to cook. I'm actually making today, oh, there's my timer. That means 6 minutes. And I'm gonna rotate it. So I literally take it out and turn it around, because my oven heating is not even. Just like that, literally. Okay, then I come back to my dough. Smells so good already. I look forward to the time when we can transmit aroma through the internet. So we are making sourdough discard chocolate chip cookies today, and while we're waiting for it to bake, I am sharing with you how to braid bread. Specifically for this one, I'm using the milk bread recipe from Cookie Dough. So now we have, I hope you can see it. You can see it, right? We now have our three logs. Now this is where my third tip comes in. You see, if you look at the cookbook, the basic cookbook, and also in Cookie Dough, it will tell you to braid from one end. It will show you a video where you pinch both the end of the 3 logs from one end and then to braid it to the other end. What I'm going to show you is actually you have to braid from the middle. It takes a bit of practice, but you will find that your braiding will be more even, because if you braid it from one end to the other, what's going to happen is that one side will be fatter and the other side will be thinner. So you start from the middle. So I'm going to start with 1, and then 2. It gets a bit tricky. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Wait, I'm getting confused here. Yeah, so you might want to practice with non-bread items before you actually do this. But anyway, once it's done, it still looks fantastic. And just the important thing is when you reach the end, you pinch it very, very well. That's tip number 4. You really, really give it a good pinch on both sides. Okay, I messed up somewhere, but it's fine. And then the final tip, take your baking tin, make sure it's very well pinched, okay? And what you do is that you kind of crunch it up a bit. Right now it's long, right? But when you put it on your baking tin, you like crunch it up a bit, make it fatter, because it's gonna expand some more and your bread will actually look nicer. So can you see? It's nice and fat. Okay, so now it's gonna need to proof a second time. So and you're supposed to cover it, so I will use my Thermomix to cover it until it's doubled in size again. And then just before baking, you beat an egg and you brush it with the egg, because it will make the loaf very beautiful and shiny, and the color is so lovely. The egg wash is essential for this particular recipe. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside, and our cookie should be done in about 2 minutes. So while waiting for that, I'm going to take another cookie sheet and portion more of our dough. Okay, where is my ice cream scoop? Yeah, I'm gonna use my ice cream scoop once again. Okay, make sure when you take out your Thermomix from the base, it's always just straight up. Because if you don't take care of, everything always you have to handle with TLC. Everything, especially people, handled with TLC, tender loving care, and things just last longer that way. So the same thing, I do 6 scoops and I divide it into half each, so I get 12 scoops per tray. And that's it. This is the part where you call on your kids and you get them to do the portioning and maybe even the baking if they're big enough. It's a great activity during the CMCO to get them involved in the kitchen. And also we need to feed them, right? It's only been day 3? Is it day 3? Is it day 3 today or day 4? I'm losing track of time. And a lot of friends are already racking their brains. What do I cook today? Nak masak apa hari ni? Kan? Sama je kan? Okay, so 6 scoops done. And then I'll divide each one into half. So I got my timer. The first batch should be done in about 50 seconds. If you are a TM5 user and if you have a cookie, you should be able to use your timer function very well. I'm actually using my timer function now. It's so good. I hope they actually add it to the TM6. So it's a small function, but I find it super useful when I'm baking. Of course, if you don't have the timer, you can always use your phone to set a timer. It works both for iPhone and Android. Okay, so we have another set ready to go into the oven. And I'm getting ready to take out the first batch. Wash my hands again. I've got my cooling tray in here for the first batch. There's the timer. So put in my silicone oven mitt. Take out the first batch. Put in the second one. Some of you might be wondering, is it possible to do 2 layers? Completely up to you, depending on your oven. I've tried with my oven. Sadly, it can't handle 2 very well. It would end up like the top shelf would be like too dark and the lower one would be too light, and then it ends up too long, and then the cooking is not even. So I decided it's better to just do it 1 batch at a time. And you might want to take note that when you take out these cookies, initially they'll be a bit soft, but as you can see, they're already a bit brown on the outside and brown at the bottom. It's hot. Okay, so be careful. Super hot, super hot. Even for me, who's an experienced baker and can handle heat better than most people. So we just let it cool for a while on the rack. And then you can use your baking tin for the next batch, of course. But I'm not going to show you the rest of the baking because of your time. I'm sure you would want to make your own batch after this instead of watching me cook the rest of my cookies. So before we end, the most important part is, of course, the taste test. So you take 1 piece. It has cooled down significantly and it's very nice and crunchy on the outside. So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is my right hand, by the way. That's a selfie, so it looks like I'm using my left, but actually it's my right hand. Wonderful. You get a crunch outside, but inside is so soft. Beautiful. Give it a go. Sourdough discard chocolate chip cookies right there in Cookie Dough. Have a nice day, everyone. Enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.